Namaste. So I have a lot of videos talking about many different things and different experiences. And it goes back almost a year and a half of when my experience actually happened. Now, I'm going to talk about who I was, let's say, 5 years beforehand, and who I was compared to who I am now, and what kind of a changes, and what would I say to myself back then if I could go back in time and tell something to myself. This experience changes every aspect of who you think you are. The identity that you created for yourself is a controlling illusion of what you think you should be compared to everybody else out in the world. It's fake. It's not real. That information comes from that identity that you created for yourself, comes from society, TV, media, social media, your friends, family, the way other people think that you should be living. It comes from other human beings and opinions and things. Who I was before this very much followed a lot of that stuff. 5 years ago, I would have just met. 6 years ago, I would have just met my other half of who I am. If anybody knows who I am, they know my love of my life. That was 6 years ago. So a year after that, 5 years ago, I was very much the same person. I was a massive alcoholic. If anybody knows who I am or knew who I was before this, I was a massive alcoholic. I would drink like a fish. A whole bottle of Jack Daniels would not stay full for a day. I would probably drink about a bottle of Gentleman Jack probably a day or every other day. And that went on for a long time. And I was a massive alcoholic. Another part of who I was I ate everything that I could get my hands on. It doesn't matter. I really doesn't. At that time, I really didn't care. As long if it was food and it was going to fill me up, I would probably be happy with it. I didn't have any idea. I learned the different things that I learned from my parents, and which were living with a healthy lifestyle, very active. My mom's very active. And I was raised with these survival skills. And then I needed to make sense of my life, of who I was. Well, who am I going to be? Well, I looked to society. Well, what's important? Money. Money is a big thing in my life. I was massively materialistic. My clothes had to be a certain way. This type of style had to be a certain way. Everything was a certain way that protected the identity that I gave myself. I even lied about who I was and different things, which is a little bit of a sensitive subject on some things. Not anymore, but so I was focused on materialism, money. Everything outwardly was who I identified myself with. I was raised in a Christian family. So I had concepts and ideas of religion. I had ideas of belief. I knew who Jesus was. I was baptized twice. But then I would go back because I would feel like, well, I would still go after the external things, not understanding the real scriptures of what was really happening, of the kingdom of God is within. So the biggest question, the biggest thing that I would probably ask myself if I go back from now to who I was like 5 years ago, I would say, you need to drop everything that you think you know who you are. You need to drop everything that you think you know and start new. You don't know anything about yourself. You need to drop everything, the identities, everything external needs to go away. Go through life. Start going through life like you have a blindfold on. And start to focus on what makes me feel good, what really makes me feel right. And I'm sure that you hear about people talking all over the place on social media and your friends and family maybe. Go within, go within, go within. That would be the biggest advice that I would have to give myself if I went back. If I could go back in time and have a conversation with myself 5 years ago. But in reality, at that time, 5 years ago, I wasn't ready to hear these things. I wasn't open enough to hear these things. I knew somebody couldn't tell me. Because people did tell me. I even had my significant other show me meditations and different things that I ended up using that actually went towards my awakening in different types of meditations and things. And I was introduced to that like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. But at the time, I didn't even have that concept in my mind. I couldn't see past it. Those areas of my brain weren't opened up for me to think critically of myself, to actually see, hey, this is good for me. I couldn't see those things. I wasn't able to see past the blockages that were inside of my physicality. And that's the thing with all of us. We can't get frustrated at people that just aren't ready to understand because they can't. They've got to get rid of these blockages inside of their body so they can make room for new things. It's like at that time 5 years ago, my cup was full with so much negativity and such negative polarity things that I was super unbalanced. I had to rid myself of so many negative polarity things, beliefs, ideologies about myself and about life, about who God was. I was very much into God is that man that's sitting on the throne always judging us. And I read the Bible, I knew the scriptures, I knew different things. But this idea that I had in my mind was not within, it was all external. There was no going within. I didn't know how to do that. That didn't make any sense to me, and that conversation would not even sink into my mind if we had that conversation now. But the most profound thing that I would be able to say to myself 5 years ago would be, stop focusing with your eyes outward. Start closing your eyes and just listening. If you're going through this experience, which if you're on this channel, you probably are having some experiences and things. You try to want to make sense of what's happening. As I'm telling you all these different things, you cannot have any expectation. You need to drop all expectation of what you have of yourself and what you expect of others. Drop all expectation of what you think something should be, because you're probably wrong. You have no idea in reality what something should be, because of where you're getting the information of. And you can't get mad at that, because I would say like 99% of the population of the world is in that same very boat. They just don't know where to get their information from. And that's the biggest downfall of humanity right now, is information. We don't have the right information. We don't know how to access the right information to open up the dormant parts of our brain so we could start the true transformation to come into who we really are through God and Source, life. So who I was 5 years ago to who I am now, I knew things. I went to church, I knew things, I'd studied things. But you can know something and understand something, but you still don't have a belief of that's truth, that's confirmed, that's reality, that's my experience. And that's what you really need. is experience. Because I can tell you different experiences. I can tell you different things of, hey, if you're here, you should expect this. Maybe you should start focusing this way. I can give you tools. But they're tools. You need to start to use them and understand how they work. I can teach you what a wrench is and how to turn it, to tighten it and loosen it, but I can't do it for you. You don't know how it feels, what it takes to loosen that whatever you're loosening with that wrench, or how it feels to tighten it. Because you got to know those things. You got to know how it feels when something is being tightened, and how it feels when something's being loosened when you have a wrench. It's a tool. You need experience with that tool. I can give you tools. I can give you understandings. I can see, okay, well, I can give you a structure of what life is. And you may not be ready for any of this stuff. Just like I wasn't. I wasn't ready for any of this stuff 5 years ago. But something was brewing. Something was beginning to brew within me. I didn't know what it was. I was homeless. No, 5 years ago, no. 7 years ago, I was homeless for a little bit. 6 years ago, I met my significant other. 5 years ago, I was night and day, literally black and white of who I am now. So if you're looking for, you're going through this experience and having these different things, or you're just wanting to know what the heck is going on in the world, what the heck is going on with life, who are human beings, like what are we really? What is God? Like what is God? Not who is God, but what is God? What is that stuff? You're looking for experience. You're looking for something somebody can't tell you. They can't explain to you. Like if you were watching Star Wars, all the Star Wars crazy people out there, which I'm one of them. I'm becoming more and more a Star Wars freak as I'm learning about the Force, which the Force is real. If you would have told a Jedi, or asked a Jedi these things, what would they tell you? They would say, you can do these things, but in order to experience the Force, you need to feel it. And that's another big thing too. There needs to be a transformation of understanding to the way you make choices. Because the way I was making choices 5 years ago was very much in my head. Thinking. My mind would race so fast, 1,000,000 miles an hour, with so many thoughts that my mouth couldn't keep up with my thoughts. It would eventually just outrun it, and it would just create so much overwhelming anxiety for myself. There will come a time, wherever you are in your journey, that the thinking mind will start to dissipate, and then starting to make choices by feeling. Start to feel things. Start to understand what your feelings are. And start to follow your feelings. Because your feelings are divine intelligence. Your physical brain, your physical mind are there to help you decipher what choice to make as in a contrast. You need contrast in order to make a choice. You need an option to make a choice. Ego will reinsert itself in you, but it'll be different. It won't be ego anymore. It'll be a physical mind that just goes and you can observe. And then you can use these feelings. The more you get in touch with these feelings, if you start to understand that whenever you start to open yourself up within yourself a lot more, you become more sensitive. Your senses are heightened. smell, all your five senses. Then you start to understand your feelings. You start to feel, why do I feel that way? That's the part you need to go through. Follow that. I would have loved to have told myself 5 years ago to start following your feelings. Stop thinking so much. Feel. And get more in touch with your feelings. Which I'm sure people told me back then too, but I wasn't ready to hear that. I was don't want to listen to you. But your feelings are true divine intelligence. Your feelings through your feelings, your intuition is heightened. You can really start to learn how to make real choices. And through your feelings will come a divine path. And you can use those to start sailing through the ocean of love. So the main difference of who I am now to who I was before was very much in my mind, very physical. Physical. Everything external. If I didn't read it in a book, if I didn't know how something made sense, I wouldn't know what to do. Like my mind, I would have to rely on my thoughts because I was so untouched with. I was a salesperson, so I learned I was a massive salesperson. Sales was I was like the sales guy of everything. I could sell anything to anybody. And in that comes a little bit of an intuition and learning how to work with your feelings, because you need to learn how to read other people's feelings and emotions and such. But how do you do that whenever you don't even know how you feel? Like the whole concept of, how do you know how to love if you don't know how to love yourself first? How do you know how to love others if you can't love yourself first? Same concept. All these things start within in order to truly benefit the external. Because you're not going to understand, you're not going to know fully really what's really going on. So getting more in touch with your feelings. Feel everything. Find out why. Learn to make it a habit to start asking yourself more, why do I feel this way? Regardless of what you think the feeling could be. Whether it's happy, whether you think you have an idea of why you feel that way or not. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Who's feeling these things? And that's another thing that was different for me too, is the separation of who you really are. Like being raised Christian in churches and things, I know that whenever you die, you go to heaven or hell. But what goes to heaven or hell? That never really sunk in for me. You have a soul, you have a spirit, and that goes. But it transferred from, I have these things, to which it's an ownership of, not of who you are. See, that's a big one. I was taking ownership of the things of who I am. I was taking ownership of who I was, when that's not true. You can't take ownership of who you are, because that's protecting the identity of what you created. You didn't create yourself. A divine intelligence created you. And that divine intelligence is what we call God. The source. But the moment it started to transfer for me was knowing that divine intelligence is me. God created us in His own image. Well, what is God? God is life's source that creates everything within it. If that is me, if I'm an image of God and that's what God is, then that's me too. I'm a piece of what that is. So that means my body the physical mind, the physical body that I occupy is like my car. I just get in my car and I can leave it whenever I want. It's not who I am. Your car is not who you are. Well, some people may think their Rolls Royce or Ferrari or whatever car you have, or Mercedes or whatever car you want to throw out there, is them because they are their clothing, they are their money, they are their house, they are those things. It's not true. It's not that. Those things are not who you are. You set them on fire, you're not going to die. Well, people may get depressed enough because they've lost other things and they may take their lives. But you're not going to be directly killed because it's not who you are. So why would you create yourself to think that that's who you are and that's your identity? No, you truly are the being, the essence of life that's a part of God, that occupies this physicality. So be a conduit. Make your physical body, your physical mind a conduit so you can flow through this physicality to be who you are. So the more you get in touch with who you really are, the more it shines out forward. And people will see that externally. Start within if you want to change your physical environment. That's absolutely true, but that's how you do it. Your perception has to change. The way you see things has to change. It has to start from inside to come outward. It can't happen the other way around. Let's say you go out and focus the external and do it opposite. Well, you go out and external and you buy stuff, and I focus on those things are who I am. Those are the things that are who I am. Those are the people that get depressed. And they start, greed. Well, because they're never satisfied because you always have an open spot right here that's not awake. It's not inside of you. It's inside of you, but it's not understanding. You don't understand what you are. So if you focus on all the external stuff, you're not going to satisfy this. You're going to feel unsatisfied. So the more you start to go external, you just have to keep going external until you just exhaust yourself or your resources. But if you start within, you don't need anything external because the satisfaction of everything you already have, the whole is filled. You are full. And the more you connect with that fullness, everything external that you wanted to work for in the beginning starts to just show up in ways and starts to come to you, and ideas and inspirations, and a path starts to come through. And you start to walk that path like like you can only see 3 feet in front of you. Like you're in the fog and you have your lights on and you can't see through the fog. You can only see what you see. And as things come through and it starts to unfold, because life unfolds. Life already happens. It just unfolds like the sacred spiral. Then you can focus on who you really are. And things start to come through. And then you start to sail through the emotions. And that's when magic happens. That's when your life changes. Your life externally changes whenever you really change on the inside. And that's the biggest thing that I would really tell myself and have a conversation with myself 5 years ago. So thank you for this opportunity, and whoever's watching this, thank you for this opportunity to listen to my inner work coming out in a way. Because reflection is transformation. And you can only transform into the thing you understand. And if you only understand the things that you created for yourself, and it won't go any further than that. But if you start to really dive into and understand who you really are that's occupying this physical body, this physical mind, then you start to understand something divine. And that's where your decisions come from. That's when your choices come from. That's where everything on the external starts to transform for you as well. So don't go through life expecting or think you know what is going to come next. You'll be wrong every time. Just enjoy the unfolding of life with an open and vulnerable mind, knowing that everything is happening for you and not to you. Go through life like this, and you'll master your life, and you'll make so much more. You'll understand your experiences a lot more as they come. You'll understand life more as it comes, as it unfolds. So allow life to unfold for you, without fear and without expectation. I'll leave you with that. Have a beautiful day. Om Namah Shivaya. Vaya Namasi. Peace.